Am I the butt of some ridiculous prank? I questioned, my voice faltering as the video continued to play behind me. The audience's chuckles and sharp intakes of breath were incredibly loud, and each one felt like a knife stabbing me in the chest. My face felt like it was on fire, and I was holding onto the podium so firmly, I honestly thought it might break. I'm Victoria Reed, I'm 38, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Reed Tech, a technology firm that I created completely on my own during the last 10 years. This platform, this particular occasion, was meant to be my victory, the high point of our company's yearly innovation gathering, taking place in front of our workforce, our customers, and some of the most powerful individuals in the field. Instead, I found myself just standing there, completely vulnerable and deeply embarrassed, while a fabricated video presented falsehoods for all to witness. Earlier, the room had been filled with a sense of excitement when I walked onto the stage, the intense lights briefly making it hard to see. This wasn't just another typical speech. It was the defining event, Reed Tech's yearly innovation conference, being streamed live to countless people around the globe. The crowd was a combination of our staff, our clientele, and leaders from the technology sector, all coming together to hear about the newest advancements we'd made. I had been getting ready for this day for several months, and I felt prepared. Or, at least, that's what I believed at the time. Right as I clicked to move forward to my initial slide, the display behind me began to flash erratically. I stopped talking and pivoted slightly, figuring it was some kind of technical problem. However, rather than seeing the presentation I had meticulously crafted, a video began to run. My stomach lurched. It was a fabricated video using my likeness, showing my face and using my voice to declare things I'd never uttered. The person resembling me on the screen acted heartlessly, ridiculing staff members, scoffing at philanthropic endeavors, and voicing extremely unpleasant remarks concerning our clientele. A wave of sharp intakes of breath resounded throughout the space, soon followed by uncomfortable chuckles, the kind that sent shivers down my spine. I wheeled around to face the people assembled, my heart pounding fiercely, and although my vocal cords constricted, I pushed myself to vocalize something. So, I announced, clutching the sides of the platform, that definitely got everyone looking, didn't it? My effort to lighten the mood crashed and burned, and the chuckling in the room transitioned from anxious to scornful. Let me just state plainly, I pressed on, my tone shaking a little but remaining resolute. The thing you just witnessed is entirely fake. I don't know who did this, but is it really? Boomed a voice from the rear of the room, their voice sliced through the air. Even more laughter broke out, laced with bitterness this time. The sounds of voices grew louder. Everyone pulled out their phones, documenting the unfolding disaster as my life publicly crumbled to pieces right then and there. After leaving the stage, the people running the conference declared an unexpected half-hour recess before the next presentation. The group was full of conversation and theories, the soft noises becoming increasingly pronounced as I proceeded by. I could feel eyes fixated on me, some expressing interest, some disapproving, while others clearly seemed entertained by it all. A wave of embarrassment washed over me, yet I held my posture firm, determined not to let anyone witness my weakness. As soon as I made it backstage, I sank down into a chair, my legs shaking uncontrollably. The green room was a little less noisy, but not by a significant amount. A couple of employees were close by, acting like they were busy while actually sneaking looks in my direction. My phone, sitting on the table just in front of me, was getting new notifications faster than I could even register. The news stories were already popping up. 30 minutes dragged on, feeling unendingly long. I could hear people moving around in the main hall, their voices drifted through the thin walls surrounding the green room. I caught snippets of discussions, my name, the words video, fake, and career ending slicing through the background noise. Each syllable was like a punch, a reminder of how rapidly a good name could fall apart. When Megan, who is my executive assistant, hurried in, her face was drained of color. "Victoria," she started tentatively, "the press wants a comment, they're waiting outside and things aren't going well." Her voice faltered on that final word, and for the first time I noticed the anxiety in her gaze, worry for me, for the company, for everything we had worked so hard to create. The clock was running out, the next person was getting ready to speak on stage, but my only thought was figuring out how to fix this, or even whether it was possible. It felt like every headline was shouting directly at me, and I seemed to be the main focus of every discussion happening within my field. The investigations soon brought the actual facts to light. The photos and the clips turned out to be fabricated. Specialists verified that the material had been created using state-of-the-art deepfake techniques, crafted to appear unsettlingly authentic. Although the truth was on my side, the impact had already occurred. My public image now held a mark, a blemish that wasn't going to disappear without a fight. Questions still lingered in the thoughts of people who had viewed the clip, particularly those who hadn't kept up with the new information or didn't feel like searching for additional details. Whether it was fake or not, there has to be something to it. I remember hearing one executive murmur at a professional gathering later in the week. That statement truly sickened me. Within Reed Tech, the rumors were more intense than ever before. On the surface, my team members were encouraging, but I could detect the uncertainty etched across their faces. Some speculated whether the act of sabotage suggested a more significant problem in the company's management. The investors started to probe with more difficult inquiries, the clients started to delay signing agreements, and my message box was flooded with worried communications that barely concealed the skepticism they had regarding my ability to head things up. As the days wore on, I constantly found myself revisiting the whole incident in my head. What kind of person does something like that? Who held enough animosity towards me to degrade me so openly? Regardless of how hard I attempted to dismiss them, a pair of names persistently floated to the forefront of my mind. First off, there was Nathan Cross, the head honcho at CrossTech, and honestly my biggest rival in the biz. Nathan never bothered to conceal how little he thought of me, usually throwing shade at industry gatherings about how I'd somehow lucked into running Reed Tech. We had fought over customers in the past, and it wouldn't surprise me if he'd staged something like this to ruin my good name and steal my clients. Next up was Diana Lewis, once my business partner and the one I started this whole Reed Tech thing with. We founded Reed Tech as a team, but our partnership went south a while back after we clashed big time over where the company should go. After a payout and with her pride wounded, Diana walked away. She hadn't reached out since then, but I'd caught wind of rumors that she was trying to create her own company. Could this be her way of settling the score? I wasn't convinced by either possibility. It just didn't seem like Nathan to conceal his involvement like this. He'd take me down head-on if that was his plan. On the flip side, Diana had a rep for being cunning, but after all this time, was she really holding on to a grudge? I went over every single piece of information for hours, trying to see if I could find some connections. The thing is, Nathan stood to gain a lot. Undermining me would cut Reed Tech down to size, which would help his company. But the more I considered it, the less it seemed to add up. He was always about being loud and assertive, not some subtle manipulator. This whole smear campaign deal seemed way too under the radar for Nathan. He'd much rather brag about his victory than be some puppet master behind the scenes. Now, Diana was a whole different story. She was always so careful, thoughtful, and almost overly calculated in her actions. Our fight had been awful, just a mess of angry words and bitterness. I'd tried to put it behind me, or so I told myself, but maybe she was still holding on to it. The timing seemed right, you know? Reed Tech was doing better and better, which just made whatever Diana was working on look even smaller by comparison. Was this how she planned to get back at me? I couldn't stop thinking about it as I walked back and forth across my apartment that night. It had to be either Nathan or Diana who was responsible. The question was, which of them did it? I felt like my gut was arguing with the facts, or the absence of them, really. I squeezed my hands tight, trying to ignore the uncertainty. I decided that no matter who was behind this, they weren't going to get away with it. The following day, I went into my office, still going over every single thing in my head. My assistant, Megan, was already there, going through a pile of papers on my desk. When I came in, she looked up and immediately saw how stressed I was. "Tough night?" she asked with a kind smile. "That's an understatement," I responded as I basically collapsed into my seat. I really needed to get her take on something, I told her. "This whole deepfake thing is just completely stressing me out," I told her. "I've managed to figure out that it had to be one of two people." Megan moved a chair closer, looking concerned. "I'm all ears," she said. "Who do you suspect?" I leaned in closer, resting my arms on the surface of the desk. Did Nathan Cross or Diana Lewis do this? Nathan's never liked me, and Reed Tech is the company he wants to beat the most. Putting me out of the game would really benefit him. Although, this sort of action doesn't seem characteristic of him. He's the type to brag about it and make sure you know he's responsible. Megan gave a thoughtful nod. Right, subtlety isn't exactly Nathan's strong suit. If he was behind this, he'd probably be boasting about it already. Precisely, I responded. Then we have to consider Diana. We haven't had a conversation in a long time, and our parting wasn't amicable. She ended up with some money and a lot of resentment when we split. She's intelligent, that's for sure. Deliberate, this seems like a scheme she would devise. Megan cocked her head, giving my statement some thought. She certainly has the intelligence required to pull this off. And what if she's still carrying that anger? Right, I can picture her engineering something like this. I gave a sigh and ran my fingers through my hair. The problem I'm facing is that I don't have real proof that either of them are involved. It's just a gut feeling. All right, Megan stated, moving closer. Let's try to reason through this logically. If Nathan is responsible, what's his goal? How would he benefit from this? I answered that he'd damage my credibility, making it look like I shouldn't be leading Reed Tech. That would cause uncertainty about the company among our customers and backers. That could create an opportunity for him to steal our customers. That's true, Megan responded. And what about Diana? I paused for a moment. It's all about payback, plain and simple. It could be completely about me. She doesn't need to gain anything for her business, just the pleasure of seeing my downfall. Megan settled back in her seat, folding her arms across her chest. While both options are viable, I'm starting to think it was Diana. The situation gives her more personal motivation. Nathan's usual approach is a very overt, very direct attack, and you can usually see his fingerprints on it. This feels like it's missing his usual punch. After talking it over with Megan, I figured out there was only one thing left to do. I had to go head-to-head with them, or at least see how they'd respond. The key was to be delicate. Whoever did this, Nathan or Diana, would eventually give something away if I played it right. I grabbed my phone and looked down at their names in my contacts, my thumb kind of just hanging there above the screen. Nathan was my first choice. He's a little reckless, pretty blunt, and not that hard to throw off balance. I touched his name, and my heart was racing as the phone started to ring. Victoria, he said. He finally picked up after a few rings, and he sounded snappy and annoyed. How's it going? Let's skip the small talk, I said to him, trying to sound like it was no big deal. I'm sure you saw the news. Of course, he answered with this self-satisfied sound in his voice. It's all anyone is talking about in our business. Honestly, that video, it was pretty vicious. Almost suspiciously perfect, you know? I stopped talking for a little bit, letting the silence hang in the air. It's a lie, you get that right? Real or not, what people think is what matters, isn't it? He answered, and I could hear him quietly laughing. But listen, if you need someone to complain to, I'm free for a few. I clenched my jaw. I'm okay, Nathan. I just wanted to see if you had heard anything, odd or out of place. I mean, you do have quite a few connections, you know? His laughter cut off without warning. What makes you think I'd be in the loop about any of this? Do you actually believe I had something to do with it? I responded, my voice mirroring his own. Just making sure I've thought of everything. Okay, well, don't point fingers at me, he shot back. I don't need to resort to shady tactics to come out on top, unlike certain individuals. Hope you have fun dealing with this situation, Victoria. The line went dead before I could say anything back. I exhaled slowly, settling back into my seat. Nathan's response wasn't unexpected, really, on the defensive, condescending. But there was nothing really solid there. Diana was next on my list. As I dialed her number, my phone seemed to weigh a ton. I was suddenly flooded with memories of our falling out. She answered on the second ring. Wow, what a shock, she remarked with an icy tone. Victoria Reed calling me up. What's this all about? Diana, I said, keeping my tone even. I'm sure you're aware of what everyone's talking about. That video, yeah, it's kind of hard to avoid, she answered. You see it everywhere on every channel. It's a nasty situation, but hardly shocking, I suppose. You haven't exactly made a lot of friends in your time. I chose to disregard her little dig. Are you including yourself on that list? She let out a laugh, a sound as biting as a razor. Please, get real. If I was going to be the one to bring you down, I wouldn't need any sort of smokescreen to make it happen. I'd do it right in front of you. Her statement was painful, but its honesty was something I couldn't brush aside. So you're telling me you weren't involved in any of this nonsense? I'm saying I've got more important stuff to handle than waste my time on you, she stated, pulling no punches. If you're trying to figure out who might be responsible, I'd suggest looking at the people nearest to you. Folks like me don't get messed up by random people. The call disconnected before I had a chance to say anything. Her statement kept resonating within me, a seed of uncertainty I couldn't dismiss. I placed the phone on the table, with all sorts of possibilities swirling in my thoughts. Diana's final statement stuck in my head more than anything. Someone I know personally. It felt like a casual remark, but it stayed with me, kind of nagging in the back of my head. Could she possibly be telling the truth? Is it possible it's someone among my friends and acquaintances? Just thinking that way made me feel sick. I tried to remember everything that was said in both discussions. Nathan's cockiness was no surprise, but the fact that he was so defensive seemed real. He seemed genuinely annoyed that I would even suspect him. Diana, conversely, was aloof and sharp, but she didn't seem like she was holding anything back. If she was behind everything, why didn't she take the chance to brag? Both of them just made me more uncertain, leaving me with a lot more questions. Megan entered my office holding a bunch of documents, her expression hard to read. She placed the files on my desk and asked how it went. I just gave a sigh, roughly as good as I thought it would. Nathan got all worked up, Diana was really patronizing, and both of them gave me absolutely nothing to work with. Megan took a seat across from me, clasping her hands together in her lap. Maybe Diana has a point. Maybe they are not responsible. Perhaps it's someone in my inner circle. I scowled, since what she said was uncomfortably close to what Diana implied. Do you think someone who works at Reed Tech is capable of something like this? She just kind of lifted her shoulders. It's certainly a possibility. You've made some difficult calls, Victoria. Not everyone's thrilled with the choices you've made. That idea bothered me, but I couldn't just ignore it. If that's the case, then whoever is responsible really knows this company like the back of their hand. They clearly had access to confidential recordings and our internal network. Right, Megan confirmed. Maybe it's time we expanded our search for suspects. I agreed, feeling the burden of her idea weighing heavily on me. If this betrayal truly originated within Reed Tech, then it signified a single, damning truth. I'd been completely oblivious the entire time. And the person responsible wasn't simply trying to ruin my reputation. They were trying to bring down everything I've worked to create. The following weeks blended together into a hazy period of discreet investigation and increasing suspicion. I requested that it thoroughly investigate our network for indications of unauthorized entry, but thus far, they haven't discovered anything definitive. Each time I entered a meeting or encountered someone in the corridor, I couldn't help but question if they were the one. Megan and I spent long evenings analyzing every piece of information we possessed. Her determination was unwavering, and her eye for detail impressed me, even amidst the disorder. She would retrieve documents, compare timelines, and re-examine every single piece of data. She was resolved to uncover any lead that might exist. One night, as we were sitting in my office with only the faint light from my desk lamp, Megan leaned back in her chair and gave a long sigh. "What if the motive here isn't financial gain or competitive advantage?" she asked. What if this was about *me? I glanced up from the computer screen. About me? In what way? Take a second to think, she suggested. This wasn't only a strike against Reed Tech, it had you as its specific target. The manner in which that video had been put together, and what it revealed, seemed designed more to shame me than merely to damage the reputation of the business. Her statement gave me the shivers. I'd been so wrapped up in the career aspects of all this that the personal element had completely escaped my notice. But Megan was spot on. It felt like the person behind this was aiming to wound me far more profoundly. But what motivated them? As I took a drink of my coffee the next morning and tried to gear myself up for another day filled with so much uncertainty, I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket, signaling I had just received a notification. It was an email from Tom, who is the director of it. The subject line was "Update on Deepfake Investigation, Victoria." The message continued with, "We believe we've uncovered a potential clue. Would you be able to come down to the IT department so we can talk?" It ended with Tom's name. I got up right away without even pausing for a moment. Before I knew it, I was inside Tom's office, where he had a desk completely covered in displays showing server logs, timestamps, and what seemed to be trails of access. He motioned for me to sit down, his face showing both resolve and concern. "We haven't stopped working," he told me. we noticed something strange happening during the night before. While the video was being uploaded, there was someone remotely accessing the presentation server. Someone gained remote access? I questioned as I leaned in to listen more closely. You mean from someone outside the firm? Tom moved his head side to side to indicate no. Actually, it originated from somewhere within. The VPN access helped to hide the initial user's true identity. However, we did successfully manage to trace it back to one particular department, communications. I felt my brow furrow. Communications? I wondered why it had originated from there. It kind of checks out, Tom offered. That department is in charge of outside-facing presentations, media files, and pretty much everything related to what the public sees. The individual responsible most likely had the ability to get to the presentation software and all the stuff for the event. I acknowledged his point, letting the details sink in. While it was a good clue, we still needed to find a specific person. Okay, so what do we do now? Tom started typing, bringing up a different screen. We are now performing a more thorough scan to figure out which computer started the VPN connection. When we know that, we can figure out what account was logged in. All right, I stated firmly. Let me know if there are any updates. One more thing, Tom, no one else needs to know about this, he agreed with a nod. I got it. Leaving his office, I felt the burden of this new direction weighing on me. Someone from the communications team. Someone who dealt with the event's materials all the time. We were getting closer, but the real question was still there. Which person was responsible? Later that day, I got a call from Tom to come back to his office. The room was dark, the monitors giving off light and creating shadows on the walls. He looked focused and serious and indicated that I should come closer to his desk. We've gotten closer to figuring out the culprit, he stated as he tapped a screen showing server logs and access paths. The VPN connection that was active while the conference was happening came from a computer that belonged to Anna Carver, a younger colleague in the communications team. Anna, I thought again, attempting to picture her in my head. She hadn't been here long, seemed reserved and hardworking, and definitely not the type I'd think would be involved in something so underhanded. What else can we find out? Okay, this is where things take an odd turn, Tom explained, as he called up some new information. Her login details were used to access the system precisely when the deepfake was being uploaded, precisely as my talk started. But it didn't come from her regular workspace. It came from a computer set up specifically for the summit behind the scenes. My brow furrowed. You're saying that somebody was actually here in the building when the summit was going on? He agreed, precisely. And it gets even more interesting, or maybe more alarming, depending on your perspective. He selected a video file to open. We lined up the login time with what the security cameras in the building captured. The video showed the backstage area while my presentation was happening. I could see someone in a black suit jacket and dress pants swipe an ID card at one of the computers designated for the event. The time on the video was a precise match for the moment when my keynote got interrupted by the video. The video quality was poor and the person wasn't facing the camera, but you could easily tell it wasn't Anna. The body type, the way they held themselves, it wasn't her at all. It looked like somebody completely different. And I knew right away who it was. It was Megan. I felt like I couldn't breathe as I tried to wrap my head around what I was seeing. Megan, the one person who had been with me through thick and thin, had stabbed me in the back in the most intimate and deliberate manner imaginable. I found myself unable to utter a word as I made my way back to my workspace. The security camera's recordings of Megan kept replaying in my head, each repeat feeling like a deeper wound. How could I have been so blind? How had I allowed someone I was so close to penetrate my guard? By the time I arrived at my desk, my feelings had morphed from disbelief to outright rage. Megan was sitting in her regular place just outside my office, busily working on her computer as if everything was normal. She glanced up and grinned, a practiced, well-known expression that now felt completely empty. "Hi, Victoria," she said perkily. "Tom said you were with it a bit ago. Any progress on the investigation?" Her serene demeanor made my stomach twist. "Nothing so far," I replied smoothly, forcing a strained smile. "But we're getting there." Her expression didn't reveal even the slightest hint of worry. If anything, she seemed interested. "That's good news. Whoever's responsible is going to get what's coming to them, right?" I nodded slowly, the impact of her betrayal sinking further into my heart. Oh, they will, I stated, my tone firm despite the turmoil brewing inside. I'll see to it. Later that evening, as I sat in the silence of my place, the burden of Megan's double-crossing weighed heavily on me. I gazed out at the city lights, my thoughts racing in circles. She had toiled alongside me for ages, gaining my confidence and presenting herself as my most trusted friend. And now I was aware of the reality. I felt the need to reveal her true nature, but the question was how. I had irrefutable proof, yet my handling of the situation would have a profound impact on both our futures. I could just confront her head-on, but that would give her an opportunity to twist the narrative. Although revealing her misconduct publicly would send a strong signal, I was concerned it might portray me as spiteful in the eyes of my colleagues. Setting up an elaborate scheme to surprise her could work, but demanded flawless execution. Each possibility came with its own set of dangers and benefits. I reclined in my chair and shut my eyes. She probably believes she's beyond reproach, I mused, that I wouldn't carry through with exposing her. She couldn't be more mistaken. The following day, I put the finishing touches on my strategy. It wasn't particularly nuanced, but it would undoubtedly achieve the desired result. The whole organization had to witness the reality of the situation, not only for my own benefit, but also to reinforce that no one, including those closest to me, would be permitted to compromise Reed Tech. I summoned Megan to my office. I adopted a level tone and informed her that we were hosting an all-hands meeting later that day. It's focused on the deepfake inquiry. It feels right to have you with me. Seeing as you've been my greatest supporter through this entire ordeal, your presence at the conclusion only makes sense. Megan's expression didn't betray any emotion. If anything, she appeared happy, even self-satisfied. Certainly, Victoria, I'll be there. Those few hours right before everything kicked off felt like a whirlwind of activity. Tom put in a huge effort getting the presentation of our proof just right, and I practiced what I was going to say when I opened things up. When the town hall finally got started, the place was overflowing with everyone from work, and they were all really wanting to know how we had taken care of the mess that had been affecting the company for weeks. To my left was Megan, and she seemed pretty calm, with a little smile playing on her lips. Tom was on my other side, with his laptop open and ready to go. I walked up to the front, taking a big breath to calm my nerves before I started talking. I started by saying thanks to everyone for coming, managing to keep my voice even though I was a nervous wreck inside. Like you're all aware, Reed Tech has been dealing with a lot lately because of that horrible deepfake video that messed up our innovation event. Our reason for being here today is to fill everyone in on what our investigation uncovered. I gave Tom a nod, and he stood up and started his presentation. He went through everything in order, talking about how the VPN was accessed, the usernames and passwords that were stolen, and the security camera recordings. You could hear a pin drop in the room as everyone listened carefully to what he was saying. Then the big reveal was about to happen. Tom moved to the last picture on the screen, which was a close-up of Megan at the computer backstage, and you could see her face very clearly. Everyone in the room gasped all at once. Tom declared in a confident tone that Megan Lawson was the one who did it. We've got solid evidence that connects her directly to what happened. Everyone in the room turned and looked at Megan. The composure she usually displayed vanished. Her cheeks turned red and her fingers tightened around the chair's arms for the first time. She stuttered, her voice trembling, "This is absurd. You're mistaken." I advanced toward her, my eyes fixed on hers. "Megan," I stated, my voice firm but restrained, "the facts are undeniable. It was you who had permission, you were the one who posted it, and you stabbed the company and me in the back." Megan jumped to her feet, her expression a blend of fury and despair. She exclaimed, her voice getting louder, "You don't get it. There must be some sort of error." Tom remained composed, replaying the video. "There's no mistaking it," he said. "Yes, the security pass was taken, but it was you who used it. The prints you left on the entry panel, they're yours, Megan. You're cornered." The employees in the room whispered, the atmosphere growing more strained with each passing moment. Megan faced me, her voice shaky. "Victoria, you can't seriously think I would do this to you. We've been colleagues for a long time. I've always been faithful to you." I moved closer, my face as cold as metal. "Loyalty isn't undermining my career, Megan. Placing the entire company in danger for your own benefit isn't loyalty. Do you have anything you'd like to say?" This time, the honest truth. She hesitated, her eyes shifting around the room, seemingly searching for a way out. She just blurted it out, her voice nearly breaking as she spoke, saying I'd been forced into doing it. I didn't have any desire to do it, but what was it? I asked sternly, my voice a bit harsh. Who pressured you into this? What made you go through with it? Her posture gave way as her resistance seemed to vanish. She leaned back heavily in the chair, her voice so quiet you could barely hear it. She confessed that the situation had nothing to do with the business. It was all about you, she whispered. You've been fortunate to have it all, I realized. You had respect, accomplishments, acknowledgement, and I'm simply your right hand. I was always standing behind you. The room grew quiet as her words lingered there unspoken. Looking up at me, I saw her eyes swimming with a combination of shame and spite. The thought was, if I could cast doubt on your reputation, perhaps I'd finally have significance. Perhaps someone would acknowledge I was here. My heart was pounding, and I inhaled deeply. Her revelation stung much more than I had anticipated, not only because of the disloyalty, but also the sheer jealousy and animosity she'd been harboring. Megan, I responded, my voice now quieter but remaining resolute. Instead of tearing me down to feel noticed, you could have come to me. What you did, though, this transcends our relationship, it's illegal. She hid her face in her hands, and I addressed those working for me still in the room. Trust is what Reed Tech relies on, I told them, my voice solid, and betraying that trust comes with a price. I chose not to bring charges, only to let her go. I discovered I needed to move on more than I wanted retribution, as much as I desired it. Pursuing this through legal channels wouldn't offer me the resolution I was looking for. Megan's admission sealed her fate, I think. She was ruined by her own drive with no chance of recovery. Those following days felt almost dreamlike. The buzz surrounding Megan's backstabbing dominated conversations in newsrooms and industry podcasts alike. You saw stories everywhere, with banners that screamed Reed Tech scandal, like the one that said CEO sabotaged by assistant with deepfake, plus titles like Envy almost destroyed Victoria Reed, or something like that. Everywhere I looked, there she was. Everyone from commentators to people who knew the business were tearing apart and judging what she did. People who worked at Reed Tech really rallied around me, showing they supported me and glad the whole thing was over. Initially worried, the people who put money into the company started saying they still had faith. While the whole world was caught up with Megan, I really zeroed in on fixing what was most important to me. Basically, my good name, the company, and the confidence of the people who had stood by me. One of the first things I did was reach out to both Nathan and Anna. I felt like I needed to say I was sorry for having doubts about them, and surprisingly, they both took it really well. It wasn't a huge deal, but it was a start toward making things right again. And Megan, well, she got what she wanted. She definitely got attention, but not the kind of attention she was after. Instead of people looking up to her, she became famous for all the wrong reasons, and her name became synonymous with a betrayal that destroyed her life. I had to stop focusing on that, though. It was time to run my company and shape what comes next, moving on from all the bad stuff that happened because of what she did. I always appreciate your support, it really means a lot to me. Plus, it guarantees you'll stay in the loop for future narratives I put out there.